Hello, everybody. Welcome to Snyder's Inc. And today, we got some Luch Green. I think that's their name. I might be wrong, but I might be right. Who knows? But today they got a video that I found interesting. It's 5 disturbing mysteries solved by kids. So I think we need to get into this. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. Let's go.
On February 23, 1991, a young woman's body was found in Goose Lake Wildlife Preserve in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, by a guy walking his dog. She was partly decomposed, yet obvious signs of trauma were still visible. She had been severely battered about the head and chest, and her throat had been slashed. Her legs were spread and her shirt pulled up to expose her breasts. She had been sexually assaulted after death.
Not shocking to hear. This seems a very violent crime, so... Well, it is more sickening though they did it afterwards, like... That's sickening to a new level right there. Wow.
Strangely, her hands had been severed and were later recovered by hunters.
What? Hold on. That just took a turn for me. Wait, so someone severed her hands and then just put them somewhere else and they were found by hunters. What?
Lacking fingertips. On March 15, 1991, a morgue photograph was downloaded into a computer, and a visual image of what the young woman might have looked like in life was created to assist detectives with identifying her remains. The sad story received national coverage, but no leads were forthcoming. Weeks later, a woman who had seen the poster of her believed she might know the identity of the dead girl. The woman informed police she believed this girl had been seen with a pimp named Joseph White. In 1990, White had recruited a young woman to work for him. One day she vanished. The woman had run away from a group home and straight into the arms of Joseph White. The group home's administrator saw the photographs of the missing girl, and she identified her as 16-year-old Doris Ann McLeod. Police discovered that
Wow, so this guy, Joseph White, who was a pimp, that's how they labeled him, pretty much convinced this troubled girl, because you're in a group home or foster home, and that most likely because you're in a situation where you're troubled or you are not in the greatest, you're not in the greatest environment. Like, you're living wise or anything, before you need to be in a foster home. And this girl, he manipulated her in such a way that she just left the home, ran away from the home, and went running right to him. And by the looks of it, he did that to her. Wow. Put him 6 feet under. What a horrible person.
McLeod was sexually abused as a child and eventually lived in 17 foster homes.
What'd I say? Probably had trouble with a bad environment, bad situation.
From the beginning, McLeod experienced problems with White. She didn't want to prostitute herself. It wasn't the life she hoped to find in the city. June 18, 1991, detectives arrived at White's house in a Milwaukee inner-city neighborhood. They entered by the front door, but cowardly White exited by the back, leaving his 3-year-old son behind.
this son of a bitch runs from police. They enter the front, he runs out the back. And leaves his kid behind. Leaves a 3-year-old behind. I gotta sneeze, but... Unbelievable. Unbelievable to me. I don't even know what to say to that. It's just unbelievable to me.
Inside the filthy, unkempt house, police discovered clothes and jewelry belonging to McLeod. However, this evidence remains largely circumstantial. White's 3-year-old son suddenly tugged on the flashlight on a detective's belt, curious about the object. He wanted to play with it. When the child, Joseph Jr., was shown a picture of McLeod, he said, "That's Dee." He told the officers that the monster in the house hurt her. Little Joseph Jr.
I apologize for that. Someone was knocking on doors just... There's people very loud out in the hall. You can't hear them, but they're very loud. So, let's get back to what we're doing. I apologize for that.
Jr. led the police downstairs to McLeod's makeshift bedroom. He pointed the flashlight to steam pipes in the ceiling and explained that he saw Dee hanging from the pipes, telling the men how the monster had bit her fingers.
This kid completely threw his dad in jail. This kid refers to his dad as the monster. Said how the monster had Dee, which is what he called the victim in this case, called Dee. The monster, his father, had Dee in this way thing, and he saw her hanging from the pipes. This kid kept this in his head. He's 3 years old, remember. He made sure to remember this, because he felt he had a reason to remember it, and this was why. Once they showed him a pic, he's like, "Oh yeah, I know that is." Said, "Oh, he didn't plan on losing this. He didn't plan on." He saw his chance. Especially once your dad runs away and leaves you there. This boy wasn't taking anything but this boy had no remorse in throwing his dad in the bus.
This is crucial evidence, as McLeod's hand was found missing her fingertips. Information that was never released to the public. The adorable little boy then stated, "I heard the monster. God damn it, why don't you go upstairs? Now get out of here." Detectives believed this was where McLeod was tortured and possibly killed. Upstairs, they found a pad of paper on which there was a gang pad that contained the rules for the gang. They read on this pad that 50 to the chest was the punishment for a girl who no longer wanted to be a prostitute, and that this was conducive to the wounds on Doris's body. Joseph White was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole.
Good. Good, that's what he should be. He should be under it. He should be 6 feet under. What a heartless, remorseless bastard. Thank God for that child who was easily able to throw the monster, perfectly nicknamed, under the bus.
Until he's 108 years old. On December 31st, 1989, Noreen Boyle, wife of a popular and charismatic doctor in Mansfield, Ohio, disappeared. Noreen had been married to her husband, John Boyle, for 22 years.
Well, I already have a gut feeling how this story goes, because it goes the same every time, but let's see.
They have a son, 11-year-old Collier, and 2.5 years old Elizabeth, who they adopted from Taiwan. A good friend of Noreen reported her missing when she hadn't shown up for their lunch date. Police investigating her disappearance found that John Boyle had numerous affairs during their marriage, and that he had bought a house in Erie, Pennsylvania for his pregnant mistress, intending to move in. Police also found that Noreen had asked for a divorce prior to her disappearance.
Oh, now I definitely have a feeling how this goes. Oh yeah, husband buys a house for his pregnant mistress, who is a doctor. He's a doctor, and his wife asked for a divorce. Oh yeah, I already feel how this goes.
Police suspected it's more than a missing persons case and believed Noreen is probably a victim of foul play, so they interviewed Collier privately about the night his mother disappeared. Collier said that at about 3:15 a.m. of December 31st, he heard his parents arguing, and then later he heard a big thud coming from the room of his parents. Shortly after that, he heard his father walking down the hallway towards his room. He said his father opened his door, looking at him for a long period of time as if he was checking on him. Collier pretended to be asleep. The next morning, his father told him that his mother had left on a vacation. Collier also said that...
Okay, so it's exactly what I thought happened. That one was kind of easy to figure out, because it's not the first time we've seen this. But it's insane to me that husbands will do that. Because it's not the first time we've heard this. Why a married couple will not go through a divorce is just weird to me. Because it seems to be a thing you see a lot, where it's like they'd rather end the lives of the person than go through a divorce. And then it always just ends badly. Like, it becomes ridiculous. In all honesty, it becomes ridiculous.
After his mother went missing, his father went on back and forth trips from their home in Mansfield to his new house in Erie, Pennsylvania, and that after his father came back from Erie, his shoulder and arms were very sore, and he asked Collier to rub liniment oil on him. Police checked on local businesses and found that John rented a jackhammer and had also purchased a roll of indoor-outdoor carpet a few days before Noreen disappeared. The retailer who sold John's new home in Erie told investigators that he asked to lower the floor in the basement so his kids could play basketball. 26 days after Noreen disappeared, police got a search warrant for John Boyle's new home in Erie, Pennsylvania. They went to check the basement, where they saw the floor had been recently painted gray and new shelves installed at one end. When police went looking around, they noticed the floor was recently filled with concrete and that it's soft, so they pulled up the carpet and began digging. Police found Noreen's badly decomposed body, her head covered with a plastic bag and wearing a Rolex watch. The watch had stopped on...
This another one will say, well, it's thank God for that child. Thank God for this kid who vividly remembers everything that happened. Because while, yes, they probably already had the suspicions of the husband, because they always do, and it's this reason why it's easy to if he tells a story and there's nothing that backs up that story, or that backs up other theories they have to just go with the story and they can't do anything. This kid painting this picture for them so vividly helped them, I would believe, stop them from going with his side of the story and going, okay, no, there's more here. Your child remembers more than that. So,
on December 31st, the day Noreen disappeared, police concluded that John struck Noreen in the head then suffocated her by putting a plastic bag over her head. John Boyle was arrested, and his son Collier testified against him in 1990.
My man! My man! Doesn't even hesitate, just immediately does not even think twice on it. Just like, oh no, I'm testifying. I'll testify against him easily. This child didn't think twice and was happy to testify against him.
He was found guilty of the murder and was sentenced to life in prison. In 2011, 22-year-old Victoria Perez, who was due to give birth in about a month, disappeared after a doctor's visit at Rapide Regional Medical Center in Louisiana. Victoria was last seen walking on Interstate 49 at the Woodworth exit on March 11th. The day before, she was seen at the Rapide Regional Medical Center. After the appointment, Victoria called the van transportation company to pick her up and bring her home. The van was delayed, and by the time they got there, Victoria was gone. The case remained cold until January 2015, when the Allen Parish Sheriff's Office received a tip that led them to a home on Matthew Street in Oakdale. It was there that her remains were found. It all began when a woman named Pamela Causey Fregia was desperate to stop her husband from leaving. She claimed she was pregnant, and she showed him a fake pregnancy test. He didn't believe.
Why is this another thing that I keep hearing a lot about? Why is this like a thing that keeps going up? I don't get it. Why is this a thing that keeps happening? Why are people just faking pregnancies to get attention or keep their marriage in check? If it's not working out, just leave. Just let it end with people. Just let it end. What the fuck?
Believe her and moved to another state. Causey Fregia continued with her lie, sending him fake sonogram photos. Months passed, and Causey Fregia realized she needed a child.
And that's usually where everything goes downhill.
She traveled to a hospital with her daughter and tried to find an infant. Instead, she found Victoria Perez, who was 8 months pregnant. Causey Fregia lured Perez to her home with the promise of free baby clothes. When the pair arrived, Causey Fregia killed Perez by blunt force. She then tried to cut the baby out of Perez but failed. Causey Fregia took Perez's body down the road to a wooded, family-owned property. She spent several days burning the body, and then she burned the remains. 4 years later, Causey Fregia's own children turned her into the police. Police sent cadaver dogs.
So it was I think the tip was originally anonymous, unless I misheard that. I might have. But I think the tip was originally anonymous. It was brought. They found the body, and then later it was revealed that the kids had turned her in. They were the anonymous ones that were like, yeah, it was her. Interesting. I wonder what it was that led them to go, okay, we gotta turn her in for this.
Around the property, and they discovered Perez's remains. Causey Fregia was charged with first-degree murder and first-degree feticide. On February 2nd, 1991, a 78-year-old grandmother named Lucille Johnson was found bludgeoned to death in her Holiday, Utah home. According to police reports, she was found dead by her daughter the very next day, and her body had been battered and her bloodied face was covered with a pillow.
Those are actual crime scene. That looks so brutal. Why did someone do this to this old woman?
Interestingly, investigators at the time found Lego bricks on Johnson's living room floor, in the home's entry, and on the driveway. Detectives collected the toys as evidence after family members told them that while Johnson had toys for her grandchildren, she would never leave them lying around. Investigators also learned that a ring and necklace Johnson regularly wore were missing. An autopsy revealed that Johnson died from strangulation and blunt force trauma. Salt Lake County Sheriff's investigators worked on the case but were unable to solve it. In August 2013, a team led by Unified Police Sergeant Michael Ike Miyashiro reopened the case. The detectives sent scrapings that had been collected from under Johnson's fingernails for DNA testing and recovered a profile that matched a combined DNA index system profile for a 47-year-old John Sansing, a man who is currently in prison in Arizona for another murder committed in 1997. Investigators also matched fingerprints from the Lego toys gathered during the original investigation with one of Sansing's children, who was 5 years old at the time of the killing. Police believed that the child was used to gain entry and that Sansing and Johnson previously did not know one another.
I wouldn't label this as solved by kids, but I guess the Lego pieces made them go by that. I wonder why, though. Why did he kill this old woman in such a vicious, violent way? I guess he did another one. I guess he might just been a serial killer and that's just the way he went about his thing. But man, that's disgusting. Everything about that dude is just disgusting.
In 1988, the body of a woman was discovered in an Ohio river under ice. She had been strangled to death, and most of the evidence had been washed away by the rushing water. A check of missing persons reports identified the woman as 32-year-old Margie Coffey, a single mother of 2 young children. She had been reported missing 10 days earlier. The autopsy revealed that she had been strangled with her own scarf. The coroner estimated she had been dumped in the creek 10 days earlier, the same day she disappeared. Police investigating the case found that Margie had a relationship with a married police officer named Charles Oswald. And investigators who examined Margie's body and clothing discovered some fibers found on her leg warmers that matched the unique carpeting in Charles's cop car that night. But this evidence is just circumstantial. Police wonder, what is the motive? Police found out that when Margie applied for financial aid at college, she was required to identify her second child's father. She named Charles Oswald as the father. A paternity test was administered and came out to be 99.98% positive. Investigators also discovered that Charles had refused to pay for child support when Margie asked.
So, in this scenario, the woman, the victim, needed financial aid while she was in college, if I heard that right. And in order to do that, she had to name the father of the second child of hers. And she revealed it to be this man over here, Charles Oswald. I probably said his name wrong, but Charlie, who is a married police officer, could not have that get out and would not pay any financial support because it would almost lead to questions which would lead to his wife finding out. So, instead, he took this young woman's life and now was going to go to jail for it.
Another woman who claimed to be Charles's new mistress said that Charles told her about the murder of Margie Coffey. She stated that Charles and Margie were together in a car talking about child support. Charles offered Margie $3,000, but she said it's not enough. Charles got angry and started to yell, calling her obscene names, and she responded by slapping him across the face. Charles then reached over and strangled Margie in the cop car and put her lifeless body into the back seat of the car. He then drove to a creek nearby and threw her over a bridge, in hopes that all the forensic evidence would wash away downstream. Charles Oswald was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter and abusing a corpse. He was sentenced to 10 to 25 years in prison.
that's it? I guess it was probably at that time that might have been the maximum thing, but that seems ridiculous. Man, that's a hell of a thing to find out. Thank you all for watching this. Hope you all enjoyed it. A lot of interesting things going on in this video. A lot of disturbing stuff. And somehow kids would always end up involved. Kids end up being involved in the solution. Even if they're not the ones that cause it, a child is always part of the solving of these cases. Yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all for the next one.